Good morning from Old Wisdom Farm. Today is a day for butchering some rabbits. So here's the 7 that are due to end up as somebody's dinner. They are all fryers, meaning they weigh anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds, possibly just a little bit more. We hadn't had time to butcher any recently. And we have them in this cage down here to keep them just a little bit calmer. The last thing we want is an animal that is stressed when you're about to butcher it, because that releases a lot of adrenaline into the meat and makes them taste bad. So we have a knife here that's extremely sharp. It's specifically a knife for butchering rabbits and poultry. We also have a pair of kitchen shears, and they're just in a green disinfectant solution. We have this is where the rabbits will go once they've been processed. We have a box here with ice packs in the bottom, so we start cooling them down immediately. And inside this trash bag is a very salty saltwater solution, because the salt helps to draw the blood out of the meat. We have our rabbit butchering tower thing with slip knots up here to hold the feet once the rabbit has been killed and is ready to hang. And actually, some of the FFA kids at one of our local schools made it for us. It was very sweet. And then we just have a box here for the offal as we butcher the rabbit. So, and then we have a hose nearby because we always clean them off real good. So my husband is going to talk about how he prefers to dispatch the rabbits, but we're not going to show that. We'll just show you once the rabbit is hung up. So how do you prefer to butcher the rabbits?
So there are quite a few different ways you can do it. Pellet guns, we don't have one though. There are some people who like to use a rake, and then what I find to be the easiest and the quickest is to grab the rabbits by their hind legs, and they'll naturally, if he cooperates, what will naturally happen.
None of these rabbits are very nice. We don't mess with them. They're just meat rabbits. So
what will naturally happen is that they'll pick up their chin and present the back of their neck, and just a swift blow just in between the neck and the head, between the shoulders and the head, will dispatch them, sever that nervous cord so they don't feel anything. So we'll hop back here in just a second once the rabbit's all nice and hung. Okay. All right, so now that we have the rabbit strung up, what I did, I was tied the slip knots just behind their foot here, and that's going to help keep them up. So the first thing that you need to do is that you'll just take your knife here and just kind of run it just below the jawline here. And what this is going to do is help bleed the rabbit out. At this time, I usually like going ahead and cut the head off as well, just kind of get it out of the way. So now that your rabbit's bleeding out, you'll take your knife here. And I like to kind of start from the top leg here and just go all the way around. Be sure not to go too deep because you don't want to cut the meat. And these rabbits, they're about fryer age, meaning their hide will actually slip very easily off the meat. Kind of like taking off a sock.
So does that make them ideal for tanning? Or
so it actually makes them not very good for tanning, because of their young age, their hide's not going to be very thick, which that in turn makes it very easy to ruin a hide. So my suggestion is nail one of the roasting age rabbits, which will be over the fryer age.
So at least 6 months or older.
Mm-hmm. So
these are all 14 months or 4 months or so. if you do decide that you're going to try to tan a rabbit's hide, but you can't get to it right away, one thing you can do is throw the hide in a bag and put it in the freezer, and it can just stay in there until you're ready to go through the process of tanning, which we've done the battery acid tanning, and surprisingly it does not smell anywhere near as bad as what you would expect.
So as y'all just seen, I kind of cut down the inner thigh here. Just kind of beat it, had it meet, cut that. And now what you'll see is that the hide is completely detached from the legs. And to remove the hide, it is very simple. You just take the hide and pull it straight down, and it comes just off like a sock.
And that is skinning a rabbit.
So skinning is now officially done with the rabbit, so very quick process. Our next step is going to be here, and that we're going to have to get the organs out. So generally what I like to do is I kind of pop the ball and socket joint here on the legs, and this is going to allow me a little bit easier access. You're going to want to pull the skin away. That way you don't cut any of the organs, and you're going to want to watch out. The biggest organ you want to make sure you don't hit is going to be the bladder. And it's going to be this right here. It's going to be very obvious. So you definitely don't want to nick that. Generally what I like to do is if I pinch it, I can just cut right there and just make sure it doesn't get in the way anymore. Now I don't have to worry about it. So next thing I like to make sure I do is go ahead and get the small and large intestine out. So make sure that they don't, we don't have fecal matter dropping on our meat here. So generally what I do is I just cut right here towards the pelvis. You'll feel the bone underneath, and then just kind of go off to the side, and you should feel just about where the tail and the pelvis meet. And ideally what you're trying to do is not cut the rectum to where it's kind of just going to come right out. So this is also a point that I like to come in the back here, and I just cut off the tail right at the base of the legs. Just find in between the bone, and it's simple as that.
It's one of the nice things about these little fryers is their bones are not very strong. It's very easy to use a small knife to do your processing.
So as y'all can kind of see here, I can pull on the tail here and it pulls up the intestines. That means everything's detached, meaning I'm ready to move on to the next part. So I just continue down this cut, right down the middle. I'll move my offal box right underneath. That way when the organs do fall out, they just fall directly into it. Cut the tail off, and now you should just be as easy as pull this right on through. Just kind of pinch up high.
A hard time getting a spot that I can see what you're doing.
Okay, and I just pull that straight down to make sure it's below the rabbit, just to make sure that nothing nasty drips on the meat. Okay, and I just continue, we're just working out all the organs.
Before you jump to dumping those, can we take a look at that liver?
So the livers, okay, you actually can tell the health of the rabbit by taking a look at their livers, okay? It's actually a very large organ considering the size of the rabbits here. Other than the stomach, it's actually the largest organ in the rabbit. And if you see just a nice pretty liver,
which that's a very pretty liver right there.
No spots. You are more than welcome to actually cook this and eat it. The main thing that you want to make sure you do when you do cook it is that you see this little black part here. This is the gallbladder. You're going to want to make sure you just pinch that off and it doesn't get on the meat, just like that.
That's going to be full of bile.
Mm-hmm. full of toxins and things like that. So that right there, you just can fry that up and that would be a very good meal.
What's a bad liver look like?
So a bad liver is going to have white spots in it. Some of the spots, it may just be soft white spots, or they may be very hard pustulent spots.
Which that generally means coccidiosis or some kind of infection.
Yes, generally it means the rabbit was trying to fight something. The kidneys here, they're another organ that you are more than happy to eat. Generally what I do is that we're mostly, with the number of rabbits we have, we're just mostly interested in getting the main meat. But we don't like wasting stuff, so I'll actually be throwing all the offal to our chickens. So rip through the diaphragm muscle here, and here you expose the heart and the lungs. These are another organ that you can go ahead and eat.
Now, if you have a rabbit that has been sneezing, just to be on the safe side, because Pasteurella is a respiratory infection that tends to be common in rabbits, then you don't want to eat those. Obviously, if you find a liver that's got pus spots on it, you're not going to want to eat that. So just be smart. A lot of the times the meat is still just fine, but you want to take a real good look at your organs before you decide that you're going to eat them.
Well, that's one reason why I always make sure that they're not worth the risk to me, so I'll just give them to my other animals. So this here, this is just belly skin and belly fat. We're not all that interested on it. So there's some people who do cook it up. I'm sure there's a recipe, but we don't find it worth it. So that's just another thing I like to give to the chickens.
Well, okay. These are small rabbits.
Yeah. So you might have a different amount of meat, considering. So kind of just, for the most part, this rabbit's done. All we have to do now is take the feet off and stick them in our water. So
are we gonna hose them off before we stick them in there?
We can, but I'm going to get the feet off first.
Yeah. So
this is where your kitchen shears just come in place. Ideally, just try to find that joint. But kitchen shears, they're really good at just cutting through the bone. Just kind of find that joint and it'll make it a little bit easier. Here is where I kind of found the difficult part. I would either have to keep skinning this foot up, but to me that's a lot of work, so I'll actually just get as high as I can and just cut right through that bone. Because it's a lot of work just to make sure you get a nice ball joint. The one thing I do warn you on that is that you're going to end up with the bone here. It's going to be a little pointy. Make sure you clean out any shards that you might have.
All right. So I guess at this point we just hose off the rabbit, and we're going to stick it in our salt water and allow the salt water to draw blood out of the meat. And after that, we'll go to jointing the rabbit up if we decide we're going to cut off the arms and the legs, or we can just stick it in the freezer whole. So I guess we'll come back here in a few minutes and show you how to joint up this rabbit.
Okay. All right, welcome back. So I butchered all 7 rabbits. It only took about an hour and a half or so for all 7. What I'm going to show you now is that we're going to process this into the main cuts. So to kind of give you an idea of the overview, so the main meal of a rabbit is always the hind legs, and then you have the loin, the ribs, and then the forearms. Those are the 4 major cuts. So I'm just going to kind of quickly show y'all how I kind of do it, and I usually start with the hind legs. And to kind of give y'all a good idea, you'll see this V here. And basically all I'm doing is I'm following the natural lines of the meat. Because my overall goal is not to cut the meat itself as much as cut it away from the bones and the ligaments. So this is kind of a little bit of an artwork. I kind of start here at the pelvis and start working down. I feel for the bones. And what I'm looking for is the ball and socket joint right there, and I want to make sure that's dislocated because that's going to allow me to get through right there. So there's the ball joint, and it's going to allow me just to kind of work along this meat here. Go around the pelvis. Sometimes you have to flip it back and forth. Okay, and there's one hind leg there. So we do the exact same thing for the other. Want to make sure that ball and socket joint is dislocated. And then just kind of follow that bone line here.
The hind legs of a rabbit are going to be like your drumsticks on a chicken. The loin is going to be essentially the breast on a chicken, and then your little legs up front are kind of like having your chicken wings. Rabbit meat is extremely mild. It's very low fat, so it's pretty easy on the system. Unlike, a lot of people are sensitive to beef or pork. And you can cook it pretty much the same way you cook a chicken because it takes on the flavor of whatever you're cooking it with.
Okay, so I just kind of do the legs first. So forearms, you can actually almost just about cut a little bit, and they actually are free floating, meaning they're not actually connected except by ligaments and tissue. So you actually can just go here, cut away the ligaments, cut away the skin. There are some people who do this for a living and they can just twist it off, but that's essentially the forelimb there. Hop to the other side.
Once we're done jointing up this rabbit, we'll probably put it back into a saltwater bath to help get some more of the blood out before we stick it in the freezer. A lot of the time we will just leave the rabbit whole and just bag it up and stick it in the freezer and cook it just as is. But if you want different parts, like if you want to be able to throw all your arms in a bag and have, essentially rabbit buffalo wings later, this is a good way to do that.
Okay, so all I did there was I saw some excess skin that we're not going to enjoy later. So here, you're going to notice that you're going to have your loin here. It actually has a little bit here on the inside. It's really hard to get to these, but you just kind of find that last rib, put your thumbs right in between the vertebra, and you can actually just pop that to dislocate it. Do the same, go to the other side. And what this is going to allow you to do, is I'll take my larger knife here, is it allows me to go straight in between the vertebra. It makes an easier cut rather than having to hack it and cause bone splinters that I don't know about.
You can't do a whole lot with your ribs except save them to make a real good rabbit stock, which is what I usually do. And I use my rabbit stock anywhere I might use chicken stock.
So, then that's exactly right. Most of it, there's not much you can do with it. If you really wanted to get at every little bit, there's a good strap of meat here on either side. But this gets into, instead of chicken broth, you make rabbit broth. Okay? And then last bit here, you have this last bit. Generally what I do is I just go ahead and cut the pelvis off. There's just not much to it, and
again,
it's
another
really hard to get.
Rabbit stock piece.
So just another rabbit stock piece. There's a lot of people that go ahead and keep it on, simply because that loin does continue on here.
The loin is going to be the tenderest piece of meat.
So just like your beef loin or...
The reason that we breed the, so we have New Zealand rabbits and Californian rabbits. Most of them are a mix of the two. And we are getting into satins as well. We have a couple registered satins out there. And all of these rabbits are a specific meat variety. They're going to have long loins and very wide loins, okay? And they also have very big hindquarters. So later on, we'll show you when you take a satin rabbit and you kind of put your hand on their head, you take your other hand and put it behind their bottom and you kind of scrunch them up into a ball and you look to see they should be just a ball of meat. They're not going to have super pronounced hip bones. They're not going to have much of a neck. They're made to give both nice pelts and good meat, and that's what we breed because we want to be able to eat these rabbits.
So, just your last bit of information. All you have to do now is bag this, whatever way that you like to deep freeze your food. We typically like using this food saver here with the roll-out sheets, but you can easily do this with those freeze and lock Ziploc bags as well. So this pretty much sums up how to butcher a rabbit. If you would like to see some rabbit recipes, you can check them out at oldwisdomfarm.com.